Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Sandeep Walia, Head of the Department, University Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management, Chandigarh University. Today we are going to discuss the module Ticketing and Booking Restrictions, Disabled Packs and Alteration in Schedules under the paper Aviation Industry, Ticketing and Frontier Formalities. After completing this module, the students will be able to understand the ticketing and booking procedures of infants and children. They will also understand the various restrictions imposed on board regarding infants and children. They will learn about disabled passengers. They will also get to know about alteration and changes in schedules. Dear students, in airlines industry there exists a special procedure of booking a ticket for an infant or a child traveling. Unlike an adult, the ticketing procedure is a little different in case of both child and infant. Although the procedure of ticketing of child and infant being different, there are certain restrictions imposed while they travel on board. There are things which need to be checked and kept in mind for the safety and comfort of an infant or the child. Let us now take ticketing and booking infants and children. Booking is just an intention to travel and precedes the step of ticketing. A booking may be cancelled as it generally has a deadline of ticketing, before which the ticket has to be issued and paid for, otherwise the booking will get automatically cancelled. It is time bound. Booking does not provide any legal right to the passenger. A ticket is an official document which is issued by an airline itself or a travel agent. A ticket is considered as a confirmation that an individual is traveling to a particular destination and that he has booked a seat on the flight on an aircraft. This document is used to purchase a boarding pass along with the attached ticket at the airport. It is after the purchase of this boarding pass and ticket that a person is allowed to board the flight. Let us now discuss passenger ticket information. The airline ticket usually consists of the following information. It consists of the name of the passenger, all the sectors or stages in the sequence to a maximum of 4 to 5 flown by the passenger, date of the travel for each sector, flight number and departure time of the flight, baggage allowance, total fare which has been paid for the ticket, PR number which is also known as reservation number or passenger name record, ticket number. Dear student, let us now discuss the boarding card information. The boarding card consists of the following informations. It consists the name of the airlines, the name of the passenger traveling to that particular airline, the flight number of the airline, the flight date on which the flight is to be taken, the seat number which has to be occupied in the flight by the passenger, location of the seat in the aircraft, whether it is a SL or a window or a smoking or a non-smoking one, the boarding number. The boarding pass also shows the boarding gate number, the boarding time, the class of the travel, whether it is first class, executive class, economy class or the tourist class, boarding name of the city and the destination of name of the city where the passenger intends to visit, whether the passenger is domestic or an international passenger on an international flight. The boarding card is usually made up of two pieces attached together. One part is separated and taken by the ground staff at the time of boarding the aircraft. The passenger retains the other part of the boarding pass. Let us now discuss about the reservation policy regarding children and infant. Few of the domestic carriers provide a discount of 25% and may rise up to 35% for a child traveler. The cost of infant ticket that is below 2 years of age is 10% generally, and of course full taxes. In an international scenario, for a child passenger, the fare may vary 50% to 75% of the adult fare. An unaccompanied minor is altogether a different concept. They receive very personalized handling at the airport and by the crew too. One-to-one attention is showered on the child passenger, who is accompanied from the point he enters the airport till he or she reaches the final destination. As soon as the travel agent books a ticket for a or a SSR, message is forwarded to the airlines. In case there is a multi-carrier, then each carrier receives a message. The carriers are informed about the person receiving the child. Both sender and receivers full information is shared with all the carriers in the itinerary. The first issue is the safety and security of the child, and then arrives the comfort which has to be looked after. Basis for booking ticket of a child and infant. A fare basis code, commonly known as fare basis, is an alpha or alphanumeric code used by airlines to identify a fare type and allow airline staff and travel agents to find the rule applicable to that particular fare. A multiple fare basis is used for a multiple sector airline. A fare basis can have 3 to 7 characters, and some of the examples are F for first class, J for business class, Y for economy class, W for premium class. Similarly, in case of child or infant, the fare basis code is CH for child in capital letters, IN in capital letters for infant. Let us now discuss about the restrictions. To make a travel on a flight safe, comfortable and hassle-free, certain rules and restrictions are imposed where are a civil aviation requirement for each and every flight. The following of them are discussed here as: the term infant in civil aviation would refer to a child that is less than 2 years of age and above that falls under child category. For safety of both the following on board, the airlines are bound to use child resistance systems. The infant should be held by a responsible person, parent or the caretaker, with seat belt fastened around that person while takeoff and landing when the fasten seat belt sign is illuminating. It is the responsibility of the cabin crew to demonstrate the emergency procedure to the mother carrying an infant before takeoff of the flight. The airlines must have harness or baby bassinets on the board. The bassinets should be soon placed after takeoff and removed when the aircraft starts to descend. The infant should be on the mother's lap during takeoff and landing. They should also be advised to put cotton in infant's ear to prevent pressure distress. Additional infant seat belt and live vest should be presented on the board. Expectant mothers beyond 38th week of pregnancy are not allowed to fly. If so, a doctor's certificate is required. The child who is traveling unaccompanied is called unaccompanied minor and may be abbreviated as in capital letters. These passengers are boarded first and D plane last. The ground staff hands over the minor to the assigned cabin crew only. All documentations are to be given to the cabin crew and checked. All safety procedures to be demonstrated to the unaccompanied minor. Location of the cabin crew seat, toilet and galley is to be shown to the unaccompanied minor. Availability of special meals for the child and of an infant may be provided on request. There are some of the rules listed by the International Air Transport Association and International Civil Aviation Organization. For airlines, younger guests are special, be it infant and children. The journey has to be enjoyable and comfortable. And special meals for the young travelers are requested at the time of booking or minimum 12 hours prior to the start of the journey. A diaper removal and change table is fitted in lavatories in almost all the flight unless space restrictions may not permit. Such a table are seen the case of the ATR. Let us now discuss about bassinets. Those infants who weigh 24.25 pounds or less than can be provided with a bassinet on equipments like A330, B777 300 and other B737 series. The bassinets are placed just behind the galleys, lavatories, closets and partitions. Limited bassinets are available, hence the request has to be put on in advance. There may be route restrictions for bassinets too, as on certain routes as the bassinets may be unavailable. In case a guest has been assured for a bassinet and could not be provided by the vendor airlines, then in such a scenario the guest may get some benefits in other ways. One has an option of paying for an extra seat for an infant where the guest is entitled to a child restraint system in an aircraft. In case no additional seat has been paid for, such in a case the infant is fastened to the adult's lap with the seat belt extender. Devices like loops, booster sheets, little cargo sheets and harnesses or vest are not permitted. So, in case the guest insists for CRS, then he or she has to pay for an additional seat. An adult has to be with the child who is accompanying an additional seat. The CRS cannot be adjusted on the exit row or the row just behind or in front of the row. The CRS has to be properly fixed on the passenger's seat and when not in use should be stored in the stowage. If one adult is accompanied with two young passengers, then in such a case both the infants are given the window and middle seat and the adult takes the SL seat due to safety reasons. Like for the adult passenger, the landings, takeoffs, taxi and seat belt sign on the seat belt should be properly harnessed. The CRS should be rear facing only. The cabin staff will only guide the passengers to where the seating can take place. The fixing of CRS has to be done by the guests. Most of the airlines provide the guest with a priority boarding in cases they are accompanied with an infant. Just to make journey more comfortable, it is advisable for the guest to take few extra diapers, some baby wet wipes, set of clothes, some pacifiers, soft toys and a foldable baby stroller. Some baby food which the infant is used to could also be kept in the baby bag. Let us now discuss about the disabled passengers or the invalid passengers. It is the sole discretion of individual carriers to assess the mobility of disabled passengers. To give them more dignified tag, they are referred as guests needing special attention or differently able passengers. A passenger who has limited mobility will be assessed by individual carriers and the airlines will decide whether the passenger can be safely carried over to the destination. Passenger's medical condition and his or her needs will be kept in mind. Medical criteria for passenger flying has detailed criteria mentioned for acceptance of such passengers. The reservation done for such passenger must be detailed information about the pack, circumstances and respective parties involved. Such special passengers are generally provided the most suited seats, keeping in mind their requirements and mobility. But keeping in mind standard procedures, such passengers will never be provided with seats which obstruct the emergency evacuation or be a hindrance to crew in performing its duties. They should not block the emergency equipment's pathway. Generally, the lavatories are designed in such a way that they have single door and have a grab bar attached for providing convenience. There may be unaccompanied minor. An unaccompanied minor has to be present at the airport of departure minimum 2 hours prior to the departure of the flight. A form has to be signed by the parent or the legal guardian or the child. It should have contact details of the parent or the guardian and also of the person who will receive the minor at the destination. A valid photo identity of the guardian or parent also needs to be furnished. A staff will be delegated by the airlines and the staff will hand over the child to the crew. The guardian or the parent has to wait until the takeoff takes place of the flight. On board, the crew will have the sole responsibility of the unaccompanied minor. The meals will be taken care of. In case of any meal restrictions, food allergy, prior information needs to be furnished to the airlines. It is advisable that children have with them their normal medicines, some games and a warm clothing in the handbag. In case a transit or a transfer is involved, the crew will make sure that the child is handed over to the official ground staff responsible for unaccompanied minor. At the destination, when the craft lands, the ground staff will usher the child through the government formalities. The child and his or her belongings will be handed over to the person whose photo identity has been provided by the legal parent or the guardian. The pregnant ladies or expectant mothers are allowed on board till 32 weeks on an average with a letter from the doctor. Certain special handling passengers may require safety assistance. The safety assistant will be seated next to the guest who needs special attention. These special passengers may be customers who are on a stretcher, customers who show signs of mental illness, guests who are immovable, customers who have hearing vision or speech disabilities. The airlines advise certain passengers to travel with a companion. These passengers are those having learning disability where they do not understand or undertake safety measures, having hearing or vision issues, have limited mobility which stops their access to emergency exits and equipments. Passengers with limited mobility or special handling passengers can be accompanied by a service dogs which has to be booked 48 hours prior. The dog will not be provided any seat and such customer will be seated in the front most rows. The customer needs to produce enough proof that the dog is a service dog and it has proper vaccination and permissions. The dog should be muzzled, should be on a mat, should be trained and be vaccinated. Few passengers need that extra attention as they are physically handicapped or are suffering from or recovering from a serious illness. Mentally challenged passengers may also fall under this category. In terms of wheelchair, there are 3 categories of invalid passengers, which are wheelchair passengers who cannot climb stairs, abbreviated as WCHS in capital letters. Wheelchair passengers who cannot walk or ram, WCHR in capital letters. Wheelchair passengers who cannot walk at all, WCHP in capital letters. In such cases, the following rules are applied. The passenger is boarded first and deplaned at the last. They are often classified as wheelchair passengers on PIL, that is Passenger Information List. Seriously ill passengers are often accompanied by a relative or a doctor during the flight. They are seated close to toilet. Many airlines also have specially designated toilets for these passengers with extra amenities. Special meal or diet is often uplifted for such passengers on board. That has to be served before every other passenger, as they may take them a little extra time to eat their food. They should be given full assistance throughout the flight. Same procedure is followed in case of mentally challenged passengers as well. Students, let us now discuss alteration in flight schedules. Airlines are required to keep a record of on-time performance of the flight, and this information is shared with people so as to attain goodwill. The flights that leave the departure gate within a time of 15 minutes from the scheduled departure of the flight is called as on-time performance. A delayed or flight cancelled does not affect its own passengers but creates a sort of chain reaction and disturb the air traffic network. Often airlines pick up passengers for their hubs and then these passengers have forward connections. In case such feeder carrier is delayed, the airlines has to delay the flight at the hub so as to accommodate these passengers. This delay will result in disturbing many flights en route. The airlines rule clearly states that if flight is delayed or cancelled, the passenger should be enrouted or rerouted or a connecting connection be provided to the guests. The guest has to be accompanied or accommodated on an airline. It is like providing alternate travel option without any extra payment. Airlines first prefer its own carrier to provide alternatives, but when not available, it uses other carriers too. There has to be no additional cost. The airlines may offer the guest lodging with meals along with a certain fixed minute for a call facility to inform the people at the destination. If a passenger is a local, then he or she is provided taxi fare from his or her house to the airport. The passengers who are stranded in one city and miss their connections are termed as distressed passengers. Usually, the flights operate according to the flight schedules or in common terms according to the timetable made by the operations department, but sometimes due to certain criteria or if need may arise, there may be alteration in schedules too. Different airlines have different procedures. If there's alteration in schedule, like they may reseat a passenger if due to some problem a flight is rescheduled, if there's an urgency for the passenger to reach on time. More often, the airlines inform the passenger 14 days before the change in schedule. If there is a cancellation in flight, they may offer compensation or refund to the passenger, but not in the case of rescheduled flights. This usually happens because airlines sell tickets as far as a year in advance of the departure date, but would not finalize flight slots until about 3 months before ahead. A lot can happen in the intervening period, from aircraft going in or out of action, merger, strikes, and new routes which may force the airline to shift the services one way or the other. These changes of alteration are usually insignificant and can go up to 12 hours, causing change in one's travel plan heavily by affecting it. Alterations also happen as most of the airlines do a revision of their flight schedules that do minimum 2 times annually. This is done to adjust the seasonal changes and variations. It may also occur due to passenger movement. A quick schedule change to enhance optimization of fleet. Weather may also play havoc. Air traffic congestion, equipment change or repairing, air traffic congestion and many other factors. Generally, airlines like to connect on the telephone to the guests directly very often. The alteration is sent in as a message and needs to be shared with agents so that they can also inform the clients about the changes. Dear students, let us now summarize what we have discussed in this module. The airlines have a network of departments which work in accordance with each other so that they can provide high level of services and a comfortable flight to the passengers in order to make flying easy for them. With these words, I sum up the module. Thank you.